Speaking of Jesus' birth, I just saw a post about how Matthew and Luke contradict each other. Oh yeah, I haven't read the Gospels in long enough that I don't remember, but like all four of the Gospels have different contradictory information. All four of them specifically disagree on what Jesus' last words were before he died on the cross. So,
Mhm.
supposedly having been written by four people who were standing there, you'd think they could get that detail right.
Or at least be like close to each other.
Right.
Everybody remembers traumatic events a little differently, but like the wording should have been at least semi the same.
Yeah, yeah. I did. Funny you mentioned that too. I did just pick this book up. It is a translation of the Gospels by Sarah Rudin. Um, I got that specifically because Dan McClellan recommends that translation. So we'll be rereading that. Rashomon. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, Matthew and Luke have two different time frames for when Jesus was born. 15 years above. That might be. I know. I don't remember specifically which Gospels it is, but one of them says that he was born during the reign of a certain governor, and one of them says that he was born during the reign of a certain king. I think it's Herod. And the tenures of those two people do not even overlap. Like the person who was governor died like 6 years before Herod became king. So there is a gap there,
Mm-hmm.
and it can't be the same.
Pop culture rabbi. That's a funny name.
Yeah. They were written at least several years after the death of Jesus. Yeah, the last time I remember reading up on it, it was something like I want to say the letters that Saul of Tarsus wrote are the first. Yeah, John wasn't written until 90. The letters, the Pauline letters, were the first um, documents that mention Jesus and were written like 30 years after he would have died, so like
Mm-hmm.
60 CE, and then the Gospels were written, in the subsequent decades. Luke said he was born during Quirinius's governorship. That's right, and which is after Herod's reign. Okay, so I had him backwards, right? Yeah, so Herod died 6, 10 years, something or other before Quirinius's reign. You like,
Thanks.
mm,
I
and
know.
it's I
I need to read. Um, I feel like I need to read the Bible again. I just don't know if I
well,
can because
we
religious trauma.
we just talked about. I'm still considering that the percentage of me doing it has decreased, but it hasn't hit zero yet. I'm still considering in which I literally just read the Bible, and each chapter would be its own video. Because like the first chapter of Genesis is 600-ish words, which comes out to like 2.5, 3 minutes. Read commentators on the Bible. Let's
I also need to read
so
the Torah and the Quran.
Yes. So Dan McClellan, who recommended the Gospels by Sarah Rudin, recommends this. What's his name? Robert Alter, as one of the best translations of the Hebrew Old Testament. This is just the Tanakh. Um, but like just the first book of Genesis that I kind of put together how I would present it. Fascinating in how differently it can be read. Because the first line, everybody knows the first line, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's not exactly, yeah, McClellan's one of my favorites on here for biblical commentary. But yeah, in the beginning isn't necessarily the best translation of that phrase. One of the, like, Alter's translation is, I'll just read it straight out of his. When God began to create heaven and earth. So essentially, the Hebrew, rather than in the beginning, the Hebrew more means to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not saying at the beginning of time, it's saying at the beginning of this particular process.
Mm-hmm.
Alter goes with a translation, a poetic translation, as opposed to literal. Yeah, it's more like at some point. Dan is one of my favorite go-tos on this app. Yes, go ahead. No, sorry.
No, you're good. For anybody who doesn't know what I'm doing, I'm holding my thought here so I don't lose it. Um, Instead of reading the whole Bible, something that might be less time consuming would be to read the chapters or read the sections that everybody loves to quote. Everybody
The,
loves to talk about how, like,
the cherries that they
men
like to
should
pick.
not lay with boys and, you know, those kind of things. And
Yep.
I would read the things where people also like to skip over, like not putting, not tattooing your skin, or
Mm-hmm.
not wearing mixed
Polyester.
clothes, or eating shellfish and things like that. I mean, like, it's really interesting that these people love to focus on these things when they, like, literally have Bible verses tattooed on their skin, you know,
Yep.
and it says blatantly in the book not to do that. Like,
Right.
so taking the really, really popular things that people like to throw in your face and actually read
Mm-hmm.
it. Like, read the whole
Right.
thing and then discuss it. That might be a little less time consuming because there's so much of the
Mm-hmm.
Bible that, like, is important, but, like,
Cool.
not.
Oh yeah,
You know, nobody's talking about it.
there's whole chapters that are just genealogies. Like
Yeah,
that's interesting to me as an amateur genealogist, but like not terribly informative.
exactly.
Um,
So
so
reading, like, the first chapter of the book, I think, is important, and then reading
mhm.
some of the Psalms, reading about Revelations, reading, you know, that kind of stuff.
Gildor asked, "Is the King James version or the King James translation incorrect?" I wouldn't say incorrect. It is politically motivated. It was
Mm-hmm.
commissioned by the king for political purposes. So
Mm-hmm.
it's got an agenda. It's got a very specific agenda. Um, like, and I actually contacted. Funny thing was, I sent Dan a message in on TikTok asking him specifically, like, what are your recommendations? What do you consider the best um, translations of the Bible? And then I popped back to his profile. His second pinned video is exactly that. Oh God, I'm
Hi,
11
Marie
messages back.
Willa! I get so
Oh,
excited
Jimmy,
whenever she pops into your lives. She's so
thanks.
stinking cute.
The Bible does say chattel slavery is okay. Even fundamentalists don't take the entire Bible literally, even their English translations. Nope. I recommend reading books that explain the historical context. Yep. Glad I made it. Written in. The genealogies is political. It's translation of the Greek. The Bible says kill infants. Yep. Dash their heads against the stones. Good
Mm-hmm.
evening, Marie. And very cute. Yes. But like, um, I was telling Nimue the word in that first line. So what I was going to do if I were to read like the first chapter of Genesis, is not use the word God, but I was actually going to use the original Hebrew word, which in that case is Elohim. Um, in the second chapter, Elohim gets the title, or no, Yahweh gets the title because I think Yahweh is the name of that God, and Elohim is the title. But in the first chapter,
Mm-hmm.
God, the word is Elohim. In the second chapter, the phrase is Yahweh Elohim. And so I was going to use those specific phrases rather than um, the
Mm-hmm.
word God or the word Lord. But the word in the first sentence that is translated commonly as heavens throughout the rest of the first and second chapters is used for skies. So when it refers to the birds of the skies, it uses the exact same word. And so it's not saying the birds of the heavens as in like heaven. It's using heavens as the metaphor for the skies.
Yeah.
But it's also essentially that first line is saying that to begin with, Elohim separated the skies and the earth.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody knows it as God created the heavens and the earth. And I'm like, that's already fascinating to me that the
Mm-hmm.
first line has been translated with a specific agenda. Yeah, so El is like Elohim is made up of pieces. El is great, something like that. Elohim
Yeah,
is
because
plural.
all I can think of is one of my favorite movies, Prince of Egypt, and the lyrics go, "Elohim, God on high, can't you hear your people cry?" So I think it is that title of
Yeah.
the name.
Well,
Elohim is the name
right. Well, Elohim is
or
plural, and
title.
in the first chapter of Genesis, Elohim refers to themselves in the plural. They say we should make man. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think the reason I was going to use the original words is because I think Yahweh is the specific deity and Elohim are the collective deities. Um,
Like the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit kind of collective deities. Is that what you mean?
well, no, like a pantheon. The idea
Mm-hmm.
of the Trinity is a later Christian idea.
Mm.
Um, but also interesting is that Adam is not a name, and so it's in the first chapter when Elohim says, uh, "Oh, thank you."
Thank you, Marie. You're so
When
sweet.
Elohim says we should create man, the word for man is ha'adam, but the word for ground is ha'adamah, and so man means of the ground from when you look at the words used in Hebrew. And so Adam is just a shortening of ha'adam, which is the word for man, and man is a shortening of ha'adamah, which means the ground, the dirt that
Mm-hmm.
man was made out of. And Eve is never called Eve. The only time Adam's wife is given a name, he calls her Hawa. So I don't know how that got translated into Eve, or it might be Hava. That might be
I think
where
that's what it
Eve
was.
came from.
Hava.
Yeah, it's Hava, and the H might be less pronounced, so it might be like Ava, and it got changed to Eve, Eve.
Mm-hmm. Uh, she asked a while back how I was doing. I got married, is how I'm doing. I got married on Pride weekend for our area, so that was exciting. Anyway, continue.
Tony, oh, thank you. Craig is admiring the nerd shrine behind me. Let's see. Ancient Israel was originally polytheistic. Yep, and it's interesting too. Later, when you get into like chapters 9, 10, you get into double digits. You get the first instance of El Elyon, which is like God Most High. Um, so Elyon is a term, and then it's given like the prefix El also.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say that was the priest who it was after the War of Kings where Abram went to war in the Valley of Kings, and it was like it was part of the Sodom and Gomorrah saga. Um, there were 9 different kings. There was 4 kings on one side, 5 kings on the other side, and Abram took his people out and went into the war and was successful. And then a priest afterwards, basically, I think, sanctified Abram in the name of El Elyon, which is the first time that name shows up because it had been Elohim and Yahweh Elohim prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
Most likely, speaking of the heavenly courts, Eve, one of the most overused character names in bad science fiction, right? I would say they
So I
are.
just had a
Hmm?
sorry.
I was just reading the comments. So wait, didn't it refer to one God though? So Lama, no. Um, the Elohim is plural, and Elohim refers to themselves in the plural several times, but then Yahweh refers to himself in the singular. So after chapter 1 in Genesis, it does go back and forth. There are instances where it's plural, and there are instances where it's singular. So
Um, well,
yes, go
Pop
ahead.
Culture Rabbi did say, where was it? Uh, that he was most likely speaking to the heavenly court because he created the angels, right? So like he would have been like, "Hey, y'all, let's create man." Like, so
Mhm.
not necessarily a whole pantheon, but it could have been like God speaking to the angels of like, we as the collective are going to
Yeah.
do this, you know?
It's possible that's not specifically in the text of those first chapters unless it gets referenced later. Like that's an explanation that could make sense of it, but that's not. Look, I don't think angels are specifically referred to in Ask Dan about the plural. I don't think it's accurate. Yeah, let me see here.
So I had an interesting thought,
Yes, go ahead.
which I was holding on my nose. Um, so much in the Bible talks about like not praying to other gods, false idols, all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff.
Right.
And it made me think about saints. How often do Catholics and other people pray to saints? They're not praying to God. They're praying
Hmm.
to a holy person. So wouldn't that be like a
Hmm.
false idol, so to speak? Like I've even found myself doing it because I have a friend who's Catholic, and
Hmm.
whenever myself or another one of our friends loses something, she'll go, "Oh, Saint Anthony," and then of
Yep.
course it'll pop up somewhere. And I start saying it, even though I'm
Hmm.
not actually praying to Saint Anthony. It's just like this thing it picked up. But
Right.
it made me think about like all of these, like praying to the Mother of God, praying to the saints.
Hmm.
Wouldn't that technically be considered praying to false idols?
Depends entirely on the intent of don't pray to false idols.
Mm-hmm.
But for to be able to pray to other gods, the person telling you that or the deity telling you that has to either know or believe that other
Congratulations,
gods
you discovered why
exist.
Christians love a good schism.
Yeah.
Mhm.
As my
I had
Or
to go
praying
wash
to
my
the
face for a minute.
angels, praying to the individual angels.
again,
I come back and the
this is
conversation got
why
serious.
there are so
A
many
kind of
different
serious case.
Christian
A lot of it has to
denominations.
do with the Roman Christianity. Yeah.
That kind of thing.
I mean, it's been interesting as I've been diving into polytheism,
Hmm.
because we have these scrolls that we read when we are
Hmm.
calling to the four elements, and on one of
Hmm.
them, um, it literally we're praying to the angel Gabriel and praying to other angels. Um,
Hmm.
and it's interesting. That's what made me think of it, because in each scroll we're praying to different angels amongst other different gods that are associated with the four elements. So
Right. Well, and I guess it also if you fully truly believe the commandment not to um, pray to other gods, I guess it depends on your intention. Because if you're beseeching a saint that you believe is has the saintly power, or you're beseeching an angel, if you're doing it like, oh, I'm beseeching the angel as a middleman because the angel is an agent of God. And I don't want to bug God. God's busy. So I'm going to like beseech the angel and maybe the angel will pass. If that's the intention, I could see that as being a way psychologically around the idea of worshiping other gods. But let's see. I love as good as red. Okay, so let's see here. That is Exodus 21 through 17. Okay, so I use an interlinear Bible that compares um, not compares. It has the original Hebrew, the transliteration, and then the translation. Let's see.
I'm giving you a 10-minute warning.
Fair enough.
I have to be the one to like tell him to cut it off, or we'll be here for 6 hours.
It's true.
Ask me how I
It's
know.
true. He spoke for 6 hours. The convention was listless. Um. So Exodus chapter 20. Now I'm thinking about George Carlin's routine on the Ten Commandments. Yeah. Exodus chapter 20 starts off, and God spoke all these words, saying. So the word for God there, where it says, and God spoke all these words, is Elohim. In chapter 20, verse 3, it says, you shall have no other gods before me. The word in that case for gods is also Elohim.
Huh.
So, and this is where I like the idea of translation becomes really fascinating and completely changes the meaning, because if the same word is being used for one particular God who is saying a specific thing to a specific person, and he's saying, oh, you can't have other gods before me. Let's see. So,
Pop culture rabbi asked, "What's the word for before?"
the word immediately, oh, the word for before. Al. AL dash. Let's see here. So in other places, it has been translated as above, over. It goes, let's see, Lo yeh leke Elohim acherim al panaya, is you shall have no other gods before me. Means on or to place over. Right, yeah. It is not lifnei, no. There's no translation from Aramaic to Greek to Latin to German to English. There's translation from Aramaic to Greek to Latin to German to English. I mean, yes. So if L is number one, you can't make God number one. Oh, you can't make another God number one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But see, now that's interesting just from a linguistic point of view, because what does that mean to make something else number one? Does like acknowledging it wouldn't necessarily, like, would acknowledging something make it number one? Or would it be, I pledge my allegiance to this thing, or I worship this thing? Like, the last word means in front of my face. Anaya. I'm probably mispronouncing that. I apologize. Pledging allegiance. Okay. So it's the same idea as when someone has to take the oath of citizenship in the United States. They have to renounce their other citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
You shall not make carved images.
I definitely think this is just my brain mulling around here, that one of these miscellaneums,
Mm-hmm.
you need to get pop culture rabbi as your guest.
Yeah, definitely. And with the numbers, it deals directly with this. Okay. Of course, these are also the ethical decalogue versus the ritual decalogue. And so, like, my question then um, is linguistically, is part of this requiring that other gods actually do exist, or is it saying you shall not worship a thing? Because, like, if, like, say it's, you shall not worship Zeus over me. If Zeus doesn't exist, it kind of doesn't matter. But then, like, I guess it kind of could, arguably, because it's like, yeah, I know that thing doesn't exist, so like, don't worship it.
Yeah,
Like,
don't put
I'm
your
the
energy into something else, I think is
right. Like, I'm the one
the
that's
idea.
real. Yeah.
Or I'm the one that's more important. I'm the one that loves you more. I'm the one that created you, whatever.
Well, and the line before that was, "I'm the one that brought you out of slavery from Egypt," or I'm the one that brought you out of slavery from Egypt." So essentially, it's saying, "I gave you your freedom. You owe your
Mm-hmm.
allegiance to me." The
Yeah.
author of the Hebrew Bible definitely believed in other gods. Yeah. Well, and that's their. I think pop culture rabbi said that it was the area was polytheistic.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Also, I just went and followed Pop Culture Rabbi, and I love their title thing. It says, "I'm the rabbi who talks Marvel, Star Wars, comics, and pop culture." Love it.
Nice. Oh, I do follow you. Okay, good. No, the one that I have found the most fascinating, or not necessarily the most fascinating, but one that I find very, very interesting, is the common misconception that mostly modern Christians have, that the serpent in the Garden of Eden was Satan, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
The word there is Hanahash. That serpent is Hanahash. It's just a serpent. Satan elsewhere, Satan is not a name. It's Hasatan, the adversary. Well, no, Satan means adversary. Hasatan means the adversary. So it's like a more formal, it's not just a nemesis, it's an arch nemesis. But yeah, yeah, yeah. And Satan appears.
Yeah.
Does Satan appear to humans? Because Satan being the serpent is definitely like just yeah. And so much of what modern Christianity considers biblical doctrine is fan fiction. It's from the Inferno. It's from Dante's Inferno.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the reason why I was agnostic. I consider myself to be polytheistic, though I don't really dabble in the Christianity part of things with polytheism, even though the temple I go to straight up does worship angels and God along with all of these other religious deities. But for so long, the scientific part of my brain was this could just be Aesop's Fables. It's a book of stories. It's a book of lineages, and it's a book of stories to help people be better people.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I remember, so one of the videos I had made, actually, Hell Doctrine comes from the Apocalypse of Peter, which is older than Dante. Oh, okay. One of the videos that I made in response to someone who was like, "Oh, there are no contradictions in the Bible. Point out one contradiction." And I was like, we're going to go 33 minutes so that I have 3 hours so that I can split this evenly into 3 1-hour pieces.
All right.
That's my plan. But I was like, well, if you want a contradiction in the Bible, just read Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2. They provide 2 different chronological creations. And the days don't match up, because in Genesis 1, the animals are created first, and then humans are created, man and woman together, after the rest of the animals. And then chapter 2 says, man was created, then the animals were created to be helpers and brought to Adam, and then Adam gave them all their names. None of them were sufficient. So then Yahweh Elohim took a rib from Adam and made woman to be helper. 2 completely different chronologies. And then the more I read about that, I think the way I remember reading it is that Genesis 2 was actually an older origin myth than Genesis 1. And so they're not supposed to be the same story. I want to say Genesis 2 was Babylonian era, it was older.
Yeah.
Dustin.
Oh, hey, look who it is. So are we going 33 more minutes, or are we...
Yes.
Okay.
Where did I write it down? I wrote down our start time. It was 10:30. We started at 10:30. So I figure if we go 1:30, that's 3 hours. That's a long feature length opening episode. Just saw the episode with the last surviving Dalek. Yeah. And I can break it into 3 1-hour. It'll be the premiere part 1, premiere part 2, premiere part 3. Fair. I think they explained that.
I'm gonna hold you to 1 hour though the next following weeks.
Sounds good. I like it. Genesis 2 was based on the Gilgamesh, and Genesis 1. Yeah, there we go. Thank you for coming in, Pop Culture Rabbi. It was an awesome conversation.
Yeah, you got to get them. Sorry,
yeah.
Death Star.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so Nimue, should I tell Dustin the idea that I had that I told you about that would be absolutely horrific for Kaylin?
Nice to meet you. No, no. You shut your face. Good
Have
night,
an awesome
Timothy. Good night, pop culture rabbi.
yes, have an awesome rehearsal tomorrow, Timothy. It was nice meeting you, Rabbi. And that's it. Like I know so like I don't know Hebrew. Like I know so little about the whole topic, and it's so fascinating. And so there's so much like there's whole college courses. There's degrees to learn if I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to learn it all. That's not gonna happen. But Dustin's like, ooh, trauma. I'm all about some trauma. No, what I would love to see as a potential side quest, Dustin, is one of the many times that we encounter bandits on the road, because I know we're going to encounter bandits on the road again, is that after we defeat them, to find amongst their loot and the things they've stolen some item that clearly, like either it bears the crest of some famous family or something like that. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but like some item that bears the crest of some family that we're like, oh, we should probably return this item. Whether it's because, oh, if we return this, we'll get, a favor or it's the right thing to do or whatever it is. But if you don't want it to be completely um, random, make the item belong to a family that one of us is tied to in some way. You know, like that way you can tie it into the story that you've got without having to go completely off the rails. Because we'll take your story off the rails. You claim you don't have rails, but like, yeah. I was gonna say, you claim you don't have rails. I know you have some rails. They may not be nailed down very tightly, but like I know you originally intended for us to go
Oh,
all the way.
that episode. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I know
Yep.
you intended for us to go do that prisoner transport.
Haha, sucker.
that,
I say that with
that
love. Please don't kill me.
I was gonna say that almost went horribly for us as a party though. Laz is like, maybe I need to chill on the like amending plans thing. They are very flexible rails. Yeah. Yeah. Now Laz wants to talk to the party about how we could potentially lure the dragon out of its lair because fighting a dragon in its lair is a bad idea. But he also wants to, if we're going to attempt to lure it out of its lair, figure out a way figure out a way to not let the dragon, like if it's out in the open, we don't want it to fly because when a dragon flies, you die. So the prisoner transport thing was going to end with Cash being captured and us going to Zorhas. Oh, that storyline.
They're not flexible rails. They're just trolley rails that you just like push or pull,
Hmm.
and they
Yeah.
switch tracks.
So I won't ask if that storyline is now just being placed elsewhere, but I am curious.
I kind of regret telling Dustin. He was like, "Do you want it to hurt?" And I was like, "Yes." Kind of regret that now.
Oh, I have Dustin. I have a brilliant way that you could perfect. I have a brilliant way that you could hurt Kaylin, but she already kn- I've already
You
told her.
shut your face.
I've already told her the idea, so it wouldn't have quite the effect. It would still be horribly traumatic, but it wouldn't give me that moment of like watching her
I don't want
discover.
Caitlin to be hurt that bad. Shut
I
up.
know, I know it's horrible. This is how I know I do have DM DNA because I have those thoughts, and I'm like, "Ooh, that would be terrible." Yeah. How do I invite you? Oh wait. Oh, there we
The same way you invited me, Dodo.
go. Oh no, he had requested, so I had to hit accept. There he is.
Yeah. So what is it?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm.
If Nimue truly does not want to do it, will you not do it? Will you follow the rules of consent?
Sure.
I don't like that answer. No.
That was extraordinarily questionable.
Yeah, no.
I
you dare.
suppose.
It is such a good story beat, though. Man, is it good. Oh,
no, because then he'll figure out something
consider this,
similar
though.
to it.
Consider this, though. What if your idea is something I've already had and put into motion?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's always a possibility.
In which case, I can't promise I won't do it because it's already in motion.
Right, exactly. I know at least one thing that's already in motion. Now I know at least two things that are already in motion. Like I know several things, but I know one thing that we've only gotten it twice we've gotten it 1.5 times the story. We got one encounter, and then we got one perception roll where something was detected. We haven't heard about it since then, and I know that's still in play. And now I know the cache thing is still in play.
Yeah, that perception roll that was in play, and then you guys ended up teleporting miles and miles away.
Well, you never know. Might accidentally cross paths. You know, the gods might cause our paths to cross again randomly. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
The gods aren't going to do shit, but the DM might.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
But I was going to say, if you do the thing that was Anthony's idea, at least I would know he didn't tell you. And then I can't be mad at him.
What is it?
I'm not going to tell you unless Nimue gives me permission to tell you. It's her trauma. Like, it's literally nothing but horrible, horrible trauma. And so I'm not going to just hand it to you. I already gave you one thing that's itself not horrible trauma, but you can use it to create trauma. This itself is horrible trauma.
Meg, Jesus fuck, I'm tired. Nimue, let me remind you. You asked for it to hurt.
I know, and I'm regretting that now.
Let me make it hurt.
But I'm regretting it now. I don't want to.
Let me make it.
Consent can be withdrawn.
Mm-hmm.
It can also be re-given.
It can. By the giver, not the
Mm-hmm.
recipient.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, I won't do it. What is it, Nimue? Or, fuck, shit, Cap. What is it? Jesus. I'm so scatterbrained right now. Yeah, let me know what it is. I ain't gonna do it.
Do you believe it? Nimue, roll perception. Roll insight. Dustin, roll deception. I'm not going to say roll persuasion. Roll deception. Like I said, I'll tell you if Nimue gives me permission. And if she doesn't, I won't.
14.
I don't know, man. I'm hard to read.
Where would be the fun in doing it if she already knows it's going to happen, right?
That is true.
Right.
I have been playing around with some ideas while I've been walking around at work. There's been a couple of things here and there that have been tickling my brain that might be fun for me to try. One particular thing that I guess is sort of spoilery-ish, but, like, not really. I do want there to be a situation eventually where the original party has to, like, fight. And it's not like rolling dice. It's that kind of situation where I describe what that fight looks like, just for a badass scene, I guess. Just describing how they fight together.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, did you still want to potentially do the flashback one-shot mini series?
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Nice.
But I'm talking like it's gonna be near the end of the campaign where this little scene happens, and like think kind of like Avengers. You know, any of the Avengers fights where they're all fighting together and being badasses. Right. Yeah, something like that.
The setup for the flashback could be in Trostenwald, since that's where I believe the rest of the original team was heading, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, everyone's gonna meet up there. Depending on how my rolls go, because again, I like to do situations where I don't even know what's going to happen story wise. I don't know if they're going to find Jean. I don't know, you know, how that's going to go. I don't know if Prince is going to find Elowen. I know where Jean and Elowen are, right, and I know what's going on with them. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. It's best to not
I like
know.
to keep that exciting for me.
Right, yeah, definitely. Yep, I had a thought. It ran away. That's okay. That's it. No, remember, I take mine out and I put them over here on the shelf.
Oh, right.
And then when I remember them, I pick them up and I put them back in my head. Oh, that's what it was. The person that created the potions of watchful rest for Laz is the alchemist friend of his mom in Trostenwald.
Yes.
Willowthorn. Just in case you wanted to use that for trauma.
There's stuff going on there. Don't worry about that.
Perfect. Well, so the conversation that Laz is going to have, or did have, technically, with Shiloh, one of the questions eventually he's going to ask. Do you want to save the conversation for on stream? Because like there's questions that are like emotionally relevant.
We can do the conversation here, but we can just have the conversation again on stream. That doesn't bother me.
Okay. So the relevant question he's going to ask, and so the way that I imagine him, the way that he's going to start the conversation is just being like, so you called yourselves the super high intensity team, huh? Just started with something fun, something not traumatic, and then talk about that, and then he's going to get up and go over, because they're downstairs in the bar area. And is there anybody working at the bar at that point at night, or no?
There would be, like, the night person.
Okay. So he would go over and he would get 2 shots and a glass of water. And then he would make sure his dad saw, and he would shoot both shots and then bring the water over to his dad. And before he sits down, turn the chair around so that he sits down with the chair in front of him, and then go, I picked up a few extra tricks. I've learned a few new tricks over the last couple of weeks. Case in point, and open up the wings, and then be like, which one of you gets the credit for this? And so,
all right,
have that whole conversation. At which point, though, that's when he's going to be like, I know some of the pieces.
I'm listening.
He's going to say, I know some of the pieces, but I don't know quite how they all fit together yet, because I am stronger than I am smart. But I have a question that's going to upset you, and you're not going to want to answer it, but I need to know what happened with Elowen's husband and what happened to Prince's dad. He knows, he knows this is not a conversation. He knows this is not something his father wants to talk about. But he's got enough of the pieces. He knows Prince's dad is dead. He knows his dad absolutely fucking hates John, and like he has seen enough of this sort of dynamic that he knows these are related. Um,
Yeah.
it's
I
although
mean,
he's yeah. So he asked what happened with John because Shiloh clearly hates John. Maybe not even hates, but has so much animosity for. And he knows that something happened to Prince's dad. And so that's why he's going to ask those two questions in the same question, but not like he doesn't know that they're connected.
yeah. I mean, it's not a big leap to realize that they're connected, obviously.
Right.
Uh,
Um,
Anyone with an intelligence above a 10 can figure that out. Let's be
yeah,
honest.
yeah, yeah. Uh, but once he starts getting into that story, Laz is very much going to understand. And Laz is saying this to his father, and Cap the player is saying this to Dustin. But Laz is going to tell Shiloh that he understands because if anything were to happen to Pierce, he would burn Wildemount to the ground. So you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I assume there's trauma waiting to happen there.
I will say I might have to make you roll a persuasion check just to see how much he tells you, but he will answer the question.
Yeah, and it doesn't
He
have to.
feels shitty enough
Yeah, it doesn't
with what
have to.
happened with Pierce and Cash earlier.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, he doesn't have to give like full blown details. Like, the general gist is kind of all that Laz is trying to get. Also, though, that was the other piece. That he's going to ask about. He meant it. He was going to ask his mom about this, but then his mom said, gave the little piece of Pierce's
It was
backstory. Hey, witch lady. Um, where she said that, me and your father and Phil went to the Feywild, had an adventure, blah, 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 blah. Uh, he's going to be like, Laz is going to be like, so, you know, Phil, do you happen to know where he is? Because Prince is looking for him.
well, that that one's gonna be easy because no,
He does.
nobody knows where Phil is.
Gotcha. Yeah. But like the fact that, well, and it's not, he wouldn't be terribly surprised that his parents know who Prince's uncle is now that he knows that
Yeah,
they're all connected like they are.
yeah. Well, I think I'm pretty sure Siobhan mentioned that Phil had gone on a couple of quests with them before.
Yeah. I think she even said that Phil and Shiloh were responsible for their original name.
Yes, it was Phil, Shiloh, and Moon.
And yeah, the two moons.
Yeah, it was mostly the Moons. I'm not going to lie to you.
It was Moon.
Moon, Moon.
Moon.
They went to go sign up for a quest, and they
Mm-hmm.
were asked to put their name in. And the
Mm-hmm.
twin, the brothers looked at each other,
The what?
smiled.
The what?
I already told you they were twins.
I don't remember that, but cool.
I'm pretty sure.
You just
I'm
did.
pretty sure.
You definitely just did.
Uh, but they looked at each other and smiled. And Shiloh went, "Oh no, we're going to get hurt, aren't we?" And then the brothers both said, "Super high intensity team."
Amazing. Perfect.
and they entirely, absolutely got hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Thaba, Siobhan, and Bells beat the shit out of them. But it was too late to change the paperwork.
It was
If they
official.
changed it, they wouldn't have gotten paid.
Oh, nice. So that's fun. So that's definitely. I imagine that's a story that Shiloh would very much enjoy telling.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you what happened with Jean here, or
If,
do you want to wait?
if we're
I'll
gonna
leave that up
do
to
it,
you.
yeah, if we're gonna do it on stream, you can say because I know you had wanted me to let you know what questions Laz was gonna ask, presumably so you could just know what to have on
They
hand.
have an idea of what to answer, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So those are going to be the questions. I think those are the only big. Oh no, there are two more. Um, he was also going to ask what the creatures, or how did he phrase it? What were the things that were chasing after the abyssal shard, the eggs, which I know is the searchers, but let me see, non-mystery sessions 16 session notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was gonna ask who are the people looking for the abyssal shard, the eggs, and then I imagined since we were gonna put this right before um, Trouble woke up from her dream, this last question he was gonna ask shortly before that ruckus started, but he was basically gonna look his dad in the face and go, "How long have they been embedded in the government?" Because me and Nimue have talked about this. Laz is having a serious uh, bit of a professional crisis at the moment. Like, yeah, and I imagine it's been a while.
I will say the answer is
Hundreds of years.
the answer he will give you will shock you.
It's like a buzz.
Not.
It's like a BuzzFeed quiz. Number 7 will shock you.
You'll see.
Good.
Do you want the answer of what happened with John right now? And everyone in this chat gets a little sneak peek.
Hi,
Oh.
one witch lady.
Nimue, do you want a sneak peek of what happened with Jean?
Sure, I'm so tired, I'll probably forget anyway.
Yeah.
So, first off, the Jathiest. What an awesome name. Fucking love it.
Which one is this?
TikTok is homophobic.
Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah. Let me make sure I'm following this.
Love the name, dude. 100%.
Smack myself in the nose with my own nail. I'm fine. Everything's fine.
I'll ask this to you. Witch lady, do you want a spoiler with this? I mean, it's going to be revealed on Tuesday anyway. But do you want a spoiler right now?
Witch lady's like, yes.
You can hold it over Tinny like, ooh, I know a secret.
Hey.
Okay. So, do you want me to answer as Shiloh, or do you want me to just tell you the answer?
You can answer as Shiloh. We'll give Witch Lady the full experience. This will also like what you do. It'll give me the chance to kind of prep a decent answer, because this is one of the things when we're in game, when we're having these conversations in game. I feel like I freeze up, like I forget how Laz would react, and this is where me and Nimue were talking. This is where I feel like my RP falls flat, because I feel like I freeze up or I don't interact at the level I would like to. So if I know what he's going to say, then I'll be able to sort of feel out a good response.
Okay. Well, number one, you do perfectly well with your RP when you're in Laz's head.
Yes.
It's when you let yourself get out of there.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you have problems.
Yeah.
As long as you stick in Lazarus's headspace, you're fine.
Mm. Yeah.
So, you ask him, he tells you the super high intensity answer. The wings, I can't answer fully because I don't 100% know. But my guess is the way I lived my life as close to the Storm Lord as I did, some way, somehow, a piece of him or a bit of his power was able to be passed on to you as a gift of my service. I was not a unpowerful paladin. Known to be one of the most powerful, if I'm honest. And I believe that is the reason you have what you do.
So you get the credit.
If you want to put it that way, yes.
So I got my dex from my mom. I got my looks from my mom. I got my wings from my dad.
Yes. What that all means, I'm not entirely sure. That's something we'll have to wait and see.
Mhm.
And as for your final question, go ahead and roll a persuasion. We'll do it now. I want to. How much does he give you here?
Also, he specifically would say, and he would say it exactly as I said it, but he would say, I have this question. I have a question that is going to upset you, and you're not going to want to answer it, or I assume you're not going to want to answer it, but I very much want to know what happened with Elowin's husband. And he's not going to say his name, and he's also not going to say Cash's father because Cash reminded him too much of Jean. So he's going to say Elowin's husband.
Okay, that'll adjust the DC.
Uh-huh. So what is his persuasion? Oh, it's a flat roll. He is a +0. 14?
Okay. I have a quick question for a quick clarifying. Aylin, are you down there?
No.
No, this
No?
yeah, so this would have been after the scene in the PC chat. So it's after the fights, and then it's after the conversation in the PC chat. Everyone else.
That's why I was asking whether or not.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody went to bed, so Caitlin's currently sleeping, about to be very rudely woken up by Cash in like a couple hours.
Yeah.
So we tried for months to find a way to defeat whatever this thing was. We tried a few different ways. Many of them failed. Many of them failed disastrously. And then New Moon came up with a plan that involved him having to die. Part of my oath was that I would protect my friends until I die. Because of that, when this plan was decided on, I promised I would be the one to do it. We knew Moon would not be able to finish himself, as the power wouldn't let him. One of us had to do it. And I said it would be me. At the last moment, before I struck the blow, Jean stabbed him in the back. He took that from me. And I'll never forgive him for that.
See, it's so weird. Every one of us is willing to die to protect our friends, but none of us are willing to let any of us die to protect our friends.
Moon was willing to die to protect the world. He was the best of us. With that, he probably would finish the water, put his hand on your shoulder, and then go upstairs. Yeah, now you know.
Well, now I know what I gotta figure out how to react to. But it's emotionally, it's part of the reason that Laz will follow Prince into the gates of hell to keep her safe.
Yeah.
Because of everything that happened because I think Laz had figured out by this point that Moon was from the conversation he had with his mother, back when that incident occurred, and she told him, "Your father lost his best friend." I think by this point he hadn't like intellectually figured it out, but like when his dad tells him this, it sort of like confirms what he felt like was the truth. And so like at that point, he's like, if Prince needs to fight a dragon to do what she needs to do, then we're going to go fight a dragon. And I'm going to make sure that she is safe that she comes out of that safely.
You want me to pump you up a little more here?
Yeah, absolutely. And then that will be
Harder,
the close.
Daddy.
It is 1:33, so after this, yes, I will shut down and go to bed.
She said he lost his best friend that day.
Mm-hmm.
You're assuming it was Moon.
It was John.
Yep.
And John did it because he believed it was going to spare Shiloh from having to do it.
Maybe.
I mean, that's my assumption. I could be wrong. Because
There's only one way to find that out.
Huh?
There's only one way to find that out, and that's to ask John.
Yeah. Well, and then afterwards, Jean used the piece of the entity to wipe as much of the world's memory as he could.
Yeah.
There was a thought. I had a thought. No, it's gone.
Originally, he thought he got the whole world, but
right.
Yeah. And that's another thing right now that they're pissed at him for. It's his fault he didn't get everyone.
Right. Which, and realistically, can't be his fault because
fair.
He found. Yeah, this is honestly, Laz has probably out of the entire group more sympathy for Jean than anybody else in his group does, because of being a soldier And like that's a conversation he would have with John about like we're all willing to die to help each other, to protect each other. We're willing to die to protect the world. But how many of us are willing to, if someone else has to die, how many of us are willing to do that, to make that hard choice? Yeah. To kill somebody else to save the world. So he's doesn't agree with him, but he's definitely got some sympathy there. The thought that I had, I gave a name to your entity. It technically you gave the name to it. When Trouble asked it who it was or what it was, it said, "Me? I'm everything and nothing." And so in the wiki, its name is hyphenated, everything and nothing.
Yeah.
All right, so.
Yeah, with that,
I got that information.
I hope everybody enjoyed the sneak peek for Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday pain.
I will post because I'm going to break this up into 3 pieces. I'll post the third one after Tuesday's game so that this doesn't spoil anything.
Hey,
Fair
I
enough.
purposely checked out, so
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
I was
Good.
like, it's just compliance. Because my brain can't do 2 things at once.
Oh, so I could have told him the thing to traumatize Kaylin and you wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
But it would have made me sad.
Do you not want me to tell him? You have to... Okay, then I will tell him.
I won't let him tell me until after the campaign.
I was just going to say after the campaign, we'll have to do like a wrap-up show, a wrap-up session, and I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Have a good one. And yes, it is 1:37 Eastern Standard Time. So I'm going to check out. Good night, One Witch Woman. Lady.
Good night.
One Witch Lady. Good night, everyone. I can't invite Tanis. I just did. So we'll be back again next Friday. I know I'll be back again next Friday. And it will be 10 p.m. Eastern Time, probably, depending on how the Dustin's Friday Night Talk Show goes. So it'll be 10.
There will not be a Friday Night Talk Show next week.
Okay.
No.
Perfect. So
because he gonna be in my living room. So I guess technically we could do talk show, but it won't be on Twitch. But he gonna be in my living room.
We could do it here.
Yeah.
Do we have to get him to? No, he can go live, right?
Yeah, he should be able to.
I was gonna say I think you only need 1,000 to go live. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Nice.
But we're not gonna want to stay up too late because we're going to Glacier the next day at 7 o'clock in the morning. So.
Nice. Yeah. Excellent. All right. Well, I'll be back next week at 6 o'clock, though. So you'll see me when you see me, and I will talk to you guys then.
Okay, bye.